Hey everybody, welcome back to Below the Surface. I'm Scott, your host. I really appreciate all you guys tuning in. I hope you guys continue to come along for this ride and this journey, and we continue to grow together and become the best fantasy players we can be. With the NFL season almost here, excitement is through the roof. Woo! Kickoff is September 4th, and the Eagles are facing the Cowboys. We already got a big headline before football even kicked off. The Cowboys are trading away Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers for Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. Just a blockbuster move, shaking things up before the season. This really improves the Packers, makes them more of a contender, and now the Cowboys are just looking like they're hitting the reset button. And it's very weird because they just had signed CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and now once you start stockpiling picks, many people believe that's when you're targeting a quarterback because that's what picks are most useful for. Obviously, you can get great players in the first round, but usually when you stockpile picks, it's a signal to move on to a quarterback. But Dak has that no trade clause and that hefty contract. So just a real crazy time in Dallas. I wonder how those Dallas fans are feeling. As a Giants fan, I imagine all the NFC East opponents to the Cowboys are feeling very happy now to see Micah move on. I want to lay out my 2025 draft day commandments to make sure you're fully prepared. Alright, so after hundreds of best ball drafts and mocks continuously throughout the summer, here are my biggest takeaways heading into redraft season. For round 1, it's the most stacked I've seen it ever. Every player, you could make an argument to me, has true league winning potential, can finish top at their position that go in the first round. Just an incredible amount of talent this year, and wherever you're drafting, 10-man, 12-man, you can get a superstar first round pick. Now, when we head into that 1-2 turn, the start of the second round, the wide receivers are just incredible. I find that the wide receivers like Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, Drake London, if they fall into the second round, those are first round caliber wide receivers, and I would be hitting the smash button with ease. Third thing I've noticed, if you draft in the early part, the first 5 or so picks, target running backs in the back half of round 2. Guys like Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, and if maybe your league mates are scared about Devon Achane's calf, I would go in and take him as well if he falls. And then the next thing I noticed is rounds 4 through 6 are just a wide receiver gold mine. I don't care if you draft multiple in this range. Even if you took a wide receiver early, make sure you're drafting wide receivers in that range. They're just incredible this year and you don't want to miss out. Also, another thing I noticed is the running backs tend to dry up much faster in redraft leagues. So in my opinion, I really like the hero RB build, and you build around that one really solid guy and fill out the rest of your roster. But the thing is, in rounds like 4 through 7, I don't love the running backs. You can really just find that running back production on the waiver wire, and maybe even you can hit on that late round gem in round 8+ for the running back position. I don't mind taking 2 running backs really early. Also, I've noticed that the late round quarterbacks and tight ends have been really nice. They're loaded with value. Even in later rounds, 10+, if you wait, you can get a great quarterback or tight end as your starter. And then that's also, if you did wait on a quarterback and you took one in the mid rounds, I don't mind pairing them up with a late round quarterback. There's tons of good options this year. I'm typically not a big quarterback 2 drafter, especially if you take one really early inside the top 5 rounds. But after that, you might want to pair them up and play them matchup based, especially if you think you're good at understanding matchups and defenses. For this year specifically, I'd be drafting at least 2 up to even 4 rookies this year and taking advantage of that IR spot in your league. If you can draft a guy who's already hurt, like a Brandon Ayuk, he falls late, and you could just add an extra player onto your roster until he gets back. And there'll be injuries and guys you want to get rid of anyway. It's just nice to open up a spot and have a solid player in your IR spot. So that's also knowing your league settings if you have that IR spot to take advantage of. And then finally, just a quick little easy way to remember things on draft. I came up with a little mnemonic device where you can just use the letters to remember. It spells out S.A.V.E. The S stands for scoring first. Know your league settings. It changes everything. Know those scoring settings. PPR, the quarterback point scoring. Know your league scoring. So that was S. A, aim for upside. The difference makers win you leagues. Obviously, you want to have a good mix of safe and high upside guys, but make sure you're mixing in those risky players. Guys like Travis Hunter, who we don't know. Just rookies in general, they have that unknown upside. Guys like Jamison Williams. Guys like Xavier Worthy. Make sure you include some of these high upside, riskier players into your draft strategy. Upside is so key to winning your fantasy football leagues. Next letter, V, value over need. Let the board come to you guys. Take advantage of when your league mates let a guy you like drop too far. Also, when it comes to drafting, even if you have 3 great wide receivers, that doesn't mean you can't take another wide receiver as your 4th option. If that board falls and that's the best player on the board, so be it. Take him. I'm sure you can make a move in season. Obviously, your league mates will need players, and you can see which team matches up with you the best. You're going to have to make moves throughout the year based on injuries, and things will happen where guys go on bye weeks. It's never bad to draft a great player. If he falls and you think it's the best player on the board, take him. And ensure flexibility. ADP is just a guide. Like I said, take advantage of the values that drop. But also, there are players that you're going to know in your league that are way mispriced among ADP, and you're going to want to grab them before your league mates to make sure you get them on your roster. That means you're going to have to reach on some guys, and there are players that I'm definitely willing to reach on because I've been in a lot of these mock drafts and I'm seeing where guys typically go, and in these best ball paid drafts where people put their money, how high they're willing to take these guys. For rookies especially, their ADPs are a little bit depressed, or guys who've had trades happen or injuries or stuff like that. Maybe their ADPs are a little too high. Make sure that you're not getting fooled by just the ADP and a guy at the top of the board is the best guy. No, that's not the case at all. As you go further and further down the board, the ADP matters less and less. The players in the beginning of the draft have very similar outcomes typically. That's why there's not much reaching in the early rounds. There are a few players that you might want to get your guys over because they are very similar. But in the later rounds, there's so much more variability, and depending on who you think the RB2 is, who you think the wide receiver 2 is on the team, can vary. Sometimes teams have more ambiguous backfields, and you don't know as much who the starting running back is. So maybe you want to reach on this guy who you think is the better player, even though their other running back is going higher. It really doesn't matter as much in the later rounds because variance is just so much higher with late round picks. So if you find a guy that you think is a Powerball player, just a guy who can really affect the season, it's important to just take your guys. You don't want to leave your draft with any regrets because once you get to that draft, if you took that guy because he fell in ADP, but the guy you actually wanted is a superstar, you're just going to regret that pick, question yourself on why you made that move. So in the end of the day, just take your guys. At least you'll go down knowing that you made that choice and that was the guy you really wanted. It's not like you just made that pick because of the value of the board. Alright guys, with the draft commandments and the S.A.V.E. mnemonic in mind, you're going to be ready to crush your drafts. Now we move into the fun part.